Good morning, Matt.
Rick, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I am doing great, Matt. I got a great little message in my inbox this morning, uplifting.
Yeah.
So it's going really good. The gym's getting busier. Yeah, that's about it.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, I heard you were a pretty good high school quarterback back in the day.
I thought I was. And then, so to anyone listening, if you are the leader of a company or, I was a marginally okay quarterback in high school. So let's not even get it twisted, right? But I was okay. But I got a message this morning, Matt and I were laughing, from a guy I went to high school with who I don't even know, who I don't know, he must have been drinking or upset or something. It's like early in the morning for this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
He hits me up with some message saying, I just want you to know that you were the captain of a losing team in high school. I was like, well, okay. That was 32 years ago, but thanks. Hope you're good morning to you too. I don't even know this guy. So it was really funny, but not so much. But I did get a kick out of it. But I get messages all the time, because anytime you're on social media, you're making any claims or doing anything, if you're a leader of any company, you're going to take criticism. And if you don't have any haters or anyone that's ever says anything about you, you're probably not making much of an impact at all. And so it comes with the territory, and it's usually pretty comical. But that one's different. I didn't get to throw
sung you a little deep there, didn't it?
It cut me, man. It cut me deep, because in my mind, I was amazing back then. I was shocked as to why I didn't go to a Division I school on a full scholarship. Just shocked. He reminded me why.
Yeah.
So
wasn't there a good Arnold saying about haters?
Yeah, I don't remember it, but I should. Why do I not know an Arnold? I mean, I'm in the gym business. Jeez.
Thought you were teeing you up for a good one there.
I know. All right, well, let's get with it. So today we're talking about, Matt,
how to build a brand.
Yeah, how to build a brand. And why I think a lot of people, when they think of a brand, they think of just a logo or a name or whatever, and that is certainly part of it. But there's a lot to building a brand. It takes time. And more importantly, it's not easy to build a relevant, good brand, especially one that's going to stand the test of time, right? So we'll walk you guys through it today. We'll start with how we built a brand, like the nuts and bolts, of how to really build a brand. Literally the logistics of how to build it. Then maybe what that brand has to do, because you have to deliver on the promise. All the logos and fonts and pictures in the world aren't going to do it for you, right? If you don't deliver. And then ultimately your brand will then take a life of its own, and you'll have folks out there who will champion that brand and take it a step further. So those are sort of the 3 steps to building a solid brand. And it takes time, and it's not easy, but I'm going to lay it out for you guys as best as possible.
Yeah. So start it up. What do you got to do?
Well, when we opened, we'll take it all the way back to 92. Well, we already took it back to high school, and we established that I sucked at playing quarterback. So that's good. Let's move forward, 4 or 5 years from that. And when I was 22 years old, we opened here, and it was the 90s, and it was still muscle pants and fanny packs or bum bags, depending on what part of the world you are when you're listening to this. And we named our gym Good Bodies. It was personal training gym only, 1,500 feet. And at the time, that was like a super dope name, right? Like, yeah, Good Bodies. Like, everybody wants a good body, right? Like, so clever. I was like, oh my gosh. And we had teal carpet and all these machines and stuff, but that was
teal
fitness.
Carpet.
I mean, disgusting. I have a ton of pictures. I think I've posted on social media a picture of my original crew like 2 days before we opened. And we all had I think I had like a mullet, and it was just really bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's amazing you're still here.
I know. Same building and everything. I don't know what it says about me, but so the name of our business was Good Bodies, which again, it seemed like a great name. And then I've told the story a million times, but I had a disgruntled employee that was leaving. He was actually not an employee. He was 1099 subcontractor, and he was taking some business with him. And I've talked ad nauseum about how we fixed that, and the systems became the impetus for the company that we now have. But at the time, it was a big deal because he had a lot of clients, and we were really small. And so I remember him standing at the door, and he's like, I said, well, good luck to you. You're never going to make it, because he really wasn't that smart and wasn't that great of a guy. And I was like, you're probably not going to make it. And I remember him saying, you know what? I'm going to open right down the street from here, and I'm going to call my gym Better Bodies. And I was like, oh, like he kind of had me, you know what I mean? Like, damn, like I'm Good Bodies. This guy's going to be Better Bodies. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to do Best Bodies. So there you go. It's like, it's just stupid, but thinking back on it, probably not the best name ever. And I've told this story a couple of times at talks that I've done, and there's been people in the audience with gyms called Better Bodies. They're like, hey man,
really?
I'm Better Bodies. I'm like, that was you, huh? Congratulations.
I saw one up in the mountains of North Georgia.
Yeah, there you go. It's probably him. Probably him. Had to get far enough away to make it work. So we were good buddies, and then, we evolved a little bit. We started offering more than just one-on-one personal training. And so we felt like we needed to drop the specification of what we were, Good Bodies Personal Training Center. So it was like, well, maybe we'll name it based on, we were just one gym still, right? And we had expanded at this point to our current size, I believe, close to it. And we rebranded to NorthPoint, which is our local area. And everything around here is called NorthPoint. There's a massive, super popular church called NorthPoint. I mean, there's a mall, there's car dealerships, everything around here is NorthPoint, doctors, medical practices, things like that. So we named it NorthPoint Fitness, which was more of a departure from the specifics, because now we were in a bigger space and we could do lots of layers of things. So we looked at ourselves more as fitness and less of personal training, right? So it's like, okay, great. Well, once we had our hiccup in business, we systemized, we built our way back. We've talked about this in different podcasts. And when we landed on this licensing model, we were still branded as NorthPoint. And so the first few licensees that we had were big gyms that were dropping our personal training systems into their gym as a better option than what they had. And they were sort of saying, hey, I need some marketing. Like, what do I call this thing? And it was like, well, just call it NorthPoint. Like, it's your systems. We're just powering it. But what I failed to realize at the time is the branding for them was very important. And obviously, right, and looking back on it, they want to bring something in and say, coming soon, this is what we're doing, and here's what we're going to be working on. And it was like, oh. And at that point, we had some good. I had been in Oprah's magazine. I had done some men's health articles. I had done a lot of things that we weren't even really promoting. So then it was like, well, we have a bigger presence than just our local gym, right? So let's go out and build a brand. How do we do that? It's like, well, we need a name in fitness that means something that's trademarkable. And that's hard to find because, there's 1,000,001 little tricky, trendy gym names, right? It's like, do you change the letter of, in a like core with a K, there's so many ways to go about it. None of them are wrong, but we really wanted to do it right. And we're doing pretty well. The gym was doing well. The licensing company was doing well. So we had some cash, and it was like, all right, well, where do we go? And through some different channels, we ended up landing on this firm out of San Francisco. And all they do, I think they're called Zen for anyone listening. I believe it's ZIN. All they do is naming. And it's a 6-week process. It was expensive. I think it was like $25,000. Just to get a name that's trademarkable, and all they do is an initial search. So you could still pick a name, and they'll give you 2 or 3 choices at the end. You could still pick a name, and that name you may not be able to get that trademark, right? So we start the process, and it's like almost like an emotional journey, because you're kind of building this brand and what it's about, and they take you like as far as they can in one direction, as far as they can in another direction, right? And it's almost like an emotional journey. You're literally arguing with these guys, and they do it on purpose. Looking back on it, it was a really great process because they really make you think, and they push you really hard, and they try to get you out of your comfort zone and get you out of your head a little bit. Because if you think about it, every gym anybody in the industry has that curse of knowledge where they're in the trenches, and so they only see things through the lens of everyone else that's also in the industry. So it's great to get out of that and have somebody outside of it who's just super creative, and all they do is come up with these things, right?
Yes.
To come up with a name. And so, we look at the name, like the name Synergy as an example. Like, there's 500 Synergy gyms of all kinds just in Georgia. Millions.
500?
Well, 502. No, I don't know, but there's a bunch, right? And there's a bunch of, there's some names of gyms that are so common. Right? And so we didn't want to go there, obviously, because that would be tough to trademark, but we wanted something that meant something to us. And so we went through this long process, and they came up with all kinds of weird names. As a matter of fact, one of them is the name for the overreaching LLC, that umbrella that all of our other companies live underneath, because it was such a funny name.
What was that?
So you're gonna laugh at this. So this was one of the names they came back with after 6 weeks, and it was so off-putting that it was kind of funny. I liked it, but not for our business. And the name was 2 words: charm and strange. Charm and Strange. I'm like,
how would that work?
exactly. How would that work for a fitness place, right?
It's like Hot Topic.
It is. I'm like, you know what? If I owned a tattoo parlor, I think I would name it Charm and Strange. Like, I really liked like the thought because they break it down for you, right? That, again, you're going through this emotional journey. I'm not there. That's the dumbest name I've ever heard, right? But then when you really look at it, it's like, okay, it makes sense, but it didn't make sense to our consumers at all. And so we needed a brand, as you can imagine. Now we're licensing. So we need a brand that works for business to consumer, so B2C, and business to business. So we're marketing to gyms as well, our licensing business. So it needs to work B2B and B2C, right? So we come up with a few choices, and one of those is our current brand name, which is Alloy. And I remember thinking, that is the dumbest name. Like, we paid all this money and went through 6 weeks of torture to come up with this name Alloy. Like, oh, I could have come up with that. You know, that's what you're, right. That's what you're saying. But it was available to be trademarked. And when you really look at what alloy is, it's nothing without a combination of materials. And if you look at the true definition, I've got it on my office wall as a graphic, right? It's like combining metals or things to make things stronger, lighter, better, right? And so it's like, oh, the meaning of alloy is really cool. It's not anything. Alloy doesn't exist unless you combine things together.
Right.
And it was like, oh, all right. Well, that makes a ton of sense because, like, you know, we have to be together to help people in the gym. We also have to be together to help people with their business. So, you know, ultimately, I'm like, I really like it. It grew on me. And I think it's a little bit like buying a home. You know, you don't want to fall in love with it until you've purchased it. So it's sort of like, you know, let them explain it, work their way through it. And then over time, it made more sense. It kind of grew on me. And then I was like, oh, you know, now I get it. And so that was it. That's all we got was a name. And then we had to go and chase the trademark rights to it, which we got and all of that. But remember, that's all we have now. It's just a name. There's no colors. There's no nothing. So then we hire a company here in Atlanta that's a branding firm, and they're going to take the name Alloy and build a brand around a name. That was it. Yeah, exactly. And so that was another $75,000. So we're $100K in by the time we have built what looks something like super simple. And mind you, we were a really small business. So to me at that point in time, that was a lot of money.
That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, it's nothing to a big Fortune 500 company, but to us, it was a big deal. So we're $100,000 in. And then, you know, the same kind of process, you know, it takes a month probably of going down once a week, and there's storyboards, and we're, you know, going through all these exercises. It's actually a lot of fun. It's like, who are your biggest influencers? Why do you enjoy them? You know, who do you think you are to your customer? Who would you say your customer thinks that you are to them? And they came up with, you know, Alloy. And then, you know, the only thing I'd ever, you know, contributed creatively was the stronger together part. But when you think about the fact that alloy is not anything without combining elements, it is literally stronger together.
Right.
Plus, that worked really well for our customers. I like the word strong as well. And it also worked really well to our businesses, because if we work together, we're stronger, and you work with your customers, and we're all stronger together.
That's right.
Now, at the time, it wasn't being used at all. And of course, it was like, wow, you know, and they came up with a few alternatives, and we ended up, you know, they ended up liking it, which was great because they were a really great firm. So we went with Stronger Together. Then we built fonts that matched it, colors. We built the logo, and the logo is the two pillars. If you look at our logo, it almost looks like a triangle. But if you really look at it, it's two pillars that are leaning against each other. So those are simple little triangle, which, by the way, a triangle is the most recognizable type of logo. Circles are good. Like, you look at Target and those type of folks. You know, even Starbucks has kind of a circular, you know, to their graphic. So circles are good, but triangles are the number one most recognizable type of logo. So I don't know if they took that into account, but it's basically a triangle, and it's essentially two pillars leaning on each other.
Cool.
Which speaks to Stronger Together. And then it was images. You know, what type of images? Again, colors, font, images. And they gave us a few graphics design ideas for like water bottles and T-shirts and things like that. So yeah, I mean, $100,000 in, and probably
how long was that process?
Probably 4.5 months total. And then, you know, we launched the brand, and then we had to wait for the trademarking.
So for the name, 6 weeks, and then it was basically several more months with everything else.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a long
expense.
time.
It is. Well, you think about, you know, you go down, you have a meeting, you storyboard all these ideas, then you go back, and then again, they get to work on that. They give you alternative ideas. They get to work on that. They give you alternative ideas. But what you end up with at the end is a package of, you have a name that means something that's trademarked. So people can't use it in your space, meaning fitness industry. You end up with logos that are also trademarked. And you end up with a whole suite of sort of guidelines, if you will, or guardrails to keep you within the specs of the brand.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, if you look at some other strong brands in fitness, you look at Gold's Gym, it's not like they all of a sudden decide to go red in a Gold's Gym, right? It's like, it's Gold's Gym. So they have and they were, I think, the first fitness franchise. So you look at them since like the 60s or early 70s. It's like some things are still there. You look at Orange Theory as an example. They've done a great job. Everything's orange. And, at first it was like, orange hearts and everything was about orange. Now they've kind of gotten away from that a little bit, but they still have, like when they talk about splat points, which is like sweat, it's orange.
Right.
So all those little things, especially if you're a small independent operator, are very difficult to get to. They just end up being, they look to you like just superfluous, like just little things that were just thought up on the fly, but they're so not. They're all very purposeful. They have a meaning. They're branded. There's certain font that people are using. All that stuff goes into it. And when you go through the process, you certainly start paying more attention to those things. And yeah, so that's where we started and how we got to Alloy, the brand. And I wasn't in love with it at first. It took a long time for me to understand why we were using it. It seemed too simple. People would mispronounce it. Obviously, internationally, sometimes it comes out to Alloy. It sounds like a pirate greeting. Alloy, arg. Seems like a bit of a pirate greeting sometimes. But overall, it's sticky enough. People remember it. It's simple. It's easy to recognize. The logo is easy to recognize. The colors are easy to recognize. And that's really key. So that's how we did it nuts and bolts wise. That's the logistics of building a brand. Now, the next phase and the most important thing was how do you deliver on the brand? Because as you know, Matt, you can look at the history of names of businesses.
Yeah.
And they don't mean much when they start. None of them do. Right. So if we had come up with Alloy and these pillars and Stronger Together and all these ideas about what we liked and then took it to market and didn't deliver on that brand promise, then it wouldn't have mattered. Our brand would have meant whatever. It could have meant low quality. It could have meant all these things to people, right? And so examples of that would be Starbucks. So Starbucks was named after a character in the book Moby Dick. It's like, all right, well, what does that have to do with coffee? Well, nothing. It was just that, the creator liked the book and liked this character and thought it was an interesting name. So they name it Starbucks. Well, then where the brand is really built is in phase 2. Once you pick your brand and your colors and those things, and those are really important, but there's people that can help you with that. The hard part is then what do you deliver under that banner? Because that really becomes the brand. So Starbucks then becomes a great atmosphere, right? At this point, really disgusting coffee, but at the time, I think it was pretty good. At least it's a consistently mediocre cup of coffee, put it that way. Compared, I'm a bit of a coffee snob, so
clearly.
Well, no, I mean it's okay. It's just, you're like, whoa, it's a great company. It is, but same thing with Google. I've heard the history of how they came up with the name for Google, and it was one name and then another name, and then they just said, well, it's close to that, so let's just use Google because that's like a fun word to say. Doesn't mean anything really. And so it's like, oh, okay. Well, now Google is literally a verb. Like, I don't care if you're on Safari, you're still Googling something, right?
And that is definitely worldwide.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right. Look at Coca-Cola. I mean, there's reasons why it's called Coke, but at the same time, it's not like the strongest name and whatnot, but it's the world's most recognized brand.
Yeah. You could pretty much, take any company and go, say grocery stores and list them off, and then just based their names, you rank them how good they are.
Exactly. Just based on the customer experience.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's where the real meat is. So how do you do that? How do you deliver on the brand promise that you had this vision of why you picked this name? How do you then deliver on that name and on that brand promise? And it all goes back to, well, what's your company about? Like if we're about Stronger Together and that's our, slogan, then people have used it. Hillary used it for her campaign slogan, and everyone's picking on us. I'd be wearing, Stronger Together shirts in the airport, and people are like, yeah, good for you. I'm like, it's not that, but that's fine. Like I'm not political in any way, shape, or form. So it's just definitely not about politics. But okay, thanks. High five. Come see me at my gym. Look up Alloy. But it boils down to how you deliver, and how you deliver is, it swings back to things we've talked about ad nauseum here, which is core values. And so what are the lenses and the guardrails for your business that you can give your team to make sure that you deliver on what you envisioned as the brand promise of Alloy? And that becomes, for us, things like just examples like keep it simple, right? Well, that's hard to do, as you know, and that's something that I think we do well. I'd say like credit to you, Matt, for the programming, because if anybody knows or is part of the Alloy family, what they understand is our programming, the source of our programming comes from the highest level of science and strength and conditioning. Well, the key then, because there's a lot of rabbit holes there, right? There's a lot of specificity. The key is to take that science, technology, whatever that is, and to pare it down and to make it work really well with everyday individuals like myself or like you.
Yeah.
Right? We're all a little different in our background, but a lot of us are, that can afford our services are sort of in the same position. Kids, family, jobs, it's like, okay, great. Well, then how do I take what a professional athlete would do and make it work for, a 50-year-old golfer? Because that's the key. But that process, that simplification is the hard part. That then becomes the brand, right? So that becomes part of the brand promise. And, same thing with, bringing your A game every day. Like, are you consistently doing the best work possible, not only for your consumers, but for like in our case, for our gym partners?
Yep.
So examples of that would be when the pandemic kicked off, again, props to Matt once more, he built workouts knowing that people were going to be opening in different phases. He built 6 weeks worth of stay in your own space workouts for the gyms that we work with. So they would have at least a 6-week runway of things built for them by us, that value, that's stronger together, right? We're helping them help their customers by building these programs. So ultimately how you deliver, from everything from your website to how friction-free it is to do business with you, to how you answer emails and how you treat customers and your responsiveness, and all of those things then become your brand. And I'm really proud to say that since we've rebranded to Alloy, which has been about a decade, we've been able to deliver, I feel, mostly, we're not perfect, but mostly on that brand promise of stronger together and the pillars leaning and those things. We really have. And that not only from B to B, because we've started from a very small and now a couple thousand clubs worldwide that we work with. So I think we've done a good job of that. And then ultimately, even in our brick and mortar clubs with our end consumers. And same thing for the gyms that we work with. There's nothing more gratifying than to get a success story from another gym of them using Alloy. And we get those all the time. We'll talk about that next. So, but the middle part, you guys, the meat that we're talking about now, that's the most important thing. That's really building your brand. Right. You can only put so much lipstick on the pig before it's still the pig, right? You have to really make it a brand.
Right.
And you do that by delivering consistently on your brand promise. It goes back to core values and those things.
Yeah, people know what they're going to get every time they come in. Like you go to a Ritz, what the experience is going to be. It's going to be top notch, super clean. Everybody's, on their game. And that's what we're trying to build. That's what we are doing.
Exactly. And if, let's say it's a Planet Fitness, right? Then you're going to be friendly. You're going to be the anti-gym, right?
Yep.
The lunk alarm. And I mean, like all of us that are fitness people like to pick on these things. But if you think about it from a brand perspective, I think they did an amazing job. Here we are. It's unintimidating. They kind of use comedy. The commercials are hilarious. They use comedy to pick at the traditional gym market, which might turn off the average gym goer, like the muscle-headed guy with the gallon of, aminos or whatever that is, carrying around the gym with his gym bag and his chalk and all that. That's the person that would turn off the average gym goer, and that's their customer because they're going after the masses. They've got a lower price point. And so when you look at building a brand, Planet Fitness is like, okay, there's, we have a tribe, or there's like, hey, here's Planet Fitness, belong to this tribe. That's all fine and dandy, but who is your tribe? That happens in the middle. That happens on your delivery in that brand. And do you hit that lunk alarm? Do you end up with a gym full of ordinary folks that don't feel intimidated? If so, then that's your brand. That's how you build it. And then history says, oh wow, this brand is this now.
It definitely takes some time, right? I mean, everybody's different, but I mean, you definitely I don't know. How long do you think this takes? I mean, we've been here since 92, right? I mean, it's a long time to build that brand.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how much market penetration you can get and how fast.
Yeah.
if you look at, Apple as an example, they've kind of always been, because of Steve Jobs' just amazing, commitment to excellence and probably, again, there's two sides to that coin. He was a bit crazy, but at the same time, his commitment to customer experience and the look and the artwork of, the user experience of that. But if you look at the name Apple, it was because he used to go with some friends and work on an orchard or something, I believe, and they would like drop acid and trip out. And it was a cool time in his life because it like unlocked some creative or something. So they jokingly named the company Apple. Well, it has nothing to do with that. The what it became was what was delivered. Right. Clean, slick. Look at the stores, the way they're built out. Simple, right?
They do a very good job of that, the simple aspect, right?
I think that's hard.
We thrive too. I mean, it's taking something, like you said, super complex, and it's deliverable, it's digestible, like you'd say, to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty, as you know, of like an iPhone is that the engineering that went into it to make it work, and the chip and the ability to go all the things that make that phone work, the engineering is absolutely amazing. But I'll tell you, they probably put 3 times as much effort into paring that engineering down and making it simple. Why do you think older population favors Apple products? Because they're just clean. It's simple to use, right? And I think this day and age, if someone is like a programmer or very technically leaning, an engineer or something, they tend to lean towards Android because it's a little bit rougher around the edges. It's completely programmable. You can do all these things with it. But for the average consumer, they don't want that. They want simple, clean,
they just
easy
want
to
it
use.
to work.
They just want it to work, and they want it to be simple. And so if you're really technical, you might like scoff at that and be like, it's all dumbed down. But they're not going for you, right? They're not trying to build a phone for engineers. They're building a phone for, anyone to pick it up and use it and make it super easy to use. And that's the hard part. Again, if that's part of your brand promise, then that becomes the brand. That's in the delivery itself. So I'd say the delivery is the most important phase. How do you deliver on that? I feel like we've done a pretty good job with that. But that's not easy. That's about consistency. It's about the 20-mile march of doing the hard work every day. Yeah. It's about convincing the team and to show up every day and do great work and to be relentless. And yes, I know we were doing this last year, but this worked. So we're going back to the well. And these are the principles that we work around and keeping people excited about it. That's really hard. That's the hard part. So I'd say the middle part is the hardest part.
For sure.
I mean, building the front end's fun. It's expensive, but it's fun. You're excited. You got this new brand, but that's not going to do anything. It's just a name on a piece of paper with some descriptors. That's it. Then you go and you deliver on that brand. That's the meat of it. And then lastly, your brand really becomes about not what you think it is and what you're trying to do, but what your customers tell you that it is. Does that make sense? So are they raving fans? I mean, when Apple was at its peak, how many like Apple logos did you see on the back of people's cars?
Man, they're all over the place.
Right, because it meant like clean, slick, smart. And so it's like if I put this Apple sticker on my car, I'm that guy. I'm tech savvy. I'm clean. I'm smart. I mean, these days it might kind of go the opposite way with some of the engineering types, but at the same time, that's a great brand. So if you look at Alloy as an example, how do we know that the middle part, that step 2, the hard part is being done? It happens in step 3 when then you have people they become the champions of your brand. They speak the brand back to you and reflect it. They hold a mirror up to your brand, and that can either be good or bad. And I think for us, thankfully, it's been pretty good. And examples of that would be there are people, in the world that have Alloy tattooed on their body. Yeah. And for different reasons. Some are part of a facility that runs Alloy, right? We've had amazing stories about people that joined a gym that was running Alloy. They participated in the programs. They lost hundreds of pounds, got in the best shape of their life, then became coaches and are now coaching Alloy. So you think about it, to them, and these are the exact words, Alloy literally changed their life. And now they want nothing more than to take that, what we produce, and then pass that along to other people to help them change their lives. And pretty soon they have a tattoo on their arm, right? I think that's when you can have that little short-lived pride in something that you've built. Right. Another example, we got a great message the other day from a coach at a gym and just saying, hey, all the workouts and stuff, all the things that you guys have been doing during the shutdown have been super helpful. I just wanted you to know that I love being an Alloy coach, that, it's helped my career, just blah, 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 on and on. And then like, hey, could you shoot me a t-shirt sometime? It's like, of course we'll shoot you a t-shirt. So how cool is that? I mean, there's no better example than, the commitment of putting a tattoo on your body. But for someone to also just be walking around town rocking your shirt because they love your brand that much.
Sure. I mean, it's unprompted thanks for all that we do. I mean, that's cool. We didn't have to do that.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, the local, like if you're just a small mom and pop gym, the local manifestation of that would be like clients referring people or clients, championing you, posting online that they're wearing your shirt. And we get that as well. So you remember, we are brick and mortar owners.
Yeah.
So we get to see our brand manifested with consumers and with businesses, right? And so we'll have a Where's Waldo summer contest, and people are rocking their alloy shirts and in the Alps or, in Italy on the Amalfi Coast or something like that. And, it's just super cool to see like that they're still that well knitted together with alloy, right? Again, stronger together, all these things combined. And so that they feel that, and then to see the businesses, claiming better revenues and, lower expenses, and the fact that they can retain coaches now. And then I think, to me, from a business to business standpoint, it's the coaches themselves, the examples I just used of like people that are actually delivering every day what alloy produces to their customers and are raving fans, and so those are the folks you want to prop up. You want to promote them as much as possible. I mean, they're ultimately telling you hopefully what you want to hear, which is you've done it, you've built a brand. Other examples of that in our industry would be like Les Mills as an example. Like what they've done well to build a brand is that, they do group exercise programming, and they license the clubs, but they certify the instructors. And so they really have two markets, right? I mean, again, they're also providing things to the end users.
Yep.
But they've got a license so the club can run it, but one of their big markets is the instructors. And I've been to a Les Mills event, and to see a line of people, lined up to buy the latest, Les Mills gear. And these are instructors that are certified through the company, and how much they take care of that flock of people and how much pride there is to be part of that brand. Same thing with Zumba. I remember at one point Zumba was one of Inc. magazine's companies of the year. And, a representative from Inc. magazine had gone to a big Zumba conference, and they were like, it was unbelievable. It was like cult-like following. There was like two stages opposing each other with music playing and people getting with it. And there's thousands of people there, right? They showed pictures of the I guess the trend at the time was to buy a Zumba piece of clothing and cut it up, cut it off, cut the sleeves off or whatever. And it was just sort of the thing to do. And you could almost like customize it that way. So there's a line around the building to get in just to buy Zumba clothing. Wow. And there was a pile of chopped up clothing bits in the women's restroom that was almost as tall as the ceiling. It was just sleeves and bottoms of shirts and like little fish cutouts or whatever people wanted to do. I'm like, say what you want. If you don't like the Latin dance, I get it. I mean, I'm not much for that myself, but at the same time, how cool is that, right? And then they come up with this, then their crowd is now telling them, they might have started out as like, hey, burn a bunch of calories. Right. And then eventually they switch to like, hey, ditch the workout, join the party. It's like, okay, cool. Like that's what we are. That's what our consumers are telling us that we are.
Yep.
And that's where you can really fine tune your brand. So great if you're getting accolades for what you're doing. You need to pay attention to that to a certain degree. Obviously you've got to filter that feedback. But if your market, meaning, the instructors for them or our gyms or, whatever, are telling us that our brand means something else, we should probably look strongly into that. If it's positive, of course, right? If it's not, you need to change it. But if it's positive, it's like, oh, okay. So why not change your motto to ditch the workout, join the party? It's like, that's what everybody just wants to come dance and have a great time. They might lose some weight while they're there, but like it's better than them sitting on the couch. We're not claiming to burn the most calories per hour or whatever. So I really appreciated that part of what they did for their brand. Same thing for us. When you look at Alloy and the Stronger Together, why have we gone as a franchise back to personal training? That speaks more to Stronger Together than group training classes, where it's like come in and then you're talking about how many calories can you burn in an hour, right?
Right.
Well, jokingly, I would always say, if you tell me about how many calories your workout burns in the time that you're doing that workout, I can probably tell you in another sentence how ineffective it is at helping you lose weight. That's the real science, right? So when you look at what we do, and we really lean on like movement quality and real strength training and overall lifestyle and eating well and just moving more in general, not necessarily getting to the gym and just doing some crazy metabolic workout twice a week and expecting that to
more
change you.
quality of life.
It is more quality of life. And that's what I think carries through to Stronger Together. So, I mean, listen, I could talk about this all day, but it gets a bit redundant. So at the end of the day, you guys, that's how you build a brand. You do need to come up with a name and the logos, and that's the fun part. It can be pricey if you want to do it right, but I'd say it's worth it. Certainly if you have aspirations of taking that brand out to a bigger audience. The real meat is how you deliver on that over time.
Yep.
And then if you do that right, that third phase where people will then reflect back to you what your brand is will really tell you, because you might think it's one thing, but those people reflect back to you what your brand really is. And if you've landed on it, you need to promote those people and just keep going back to the well and use that as fuel for your team to say, see, all this in the trenches work that we're doing, this is how it's manifested on the back end. So let's keep up the great work. And that's just fuel for your team to get back to that middle section again and grind it out.
Cool.
Make sense?
It's awesome, man. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Appreciate it.